very passionate about acting and very serious and very driven. Like I would quit jobs. I would have done anything for an acting job. Like I was like very serious. But I also think it was luck too. Part of it was like I was the person that called time out that day, and they said, "We're taking you. You're gonna get tapped." And they even, because I was from a small town and like this bright-eyed, bushy-tailed kid. At the end of the day, when I was signing up, they're like, "Just so you know, it was an indie movie. They're like, we don't have any money in the budget, so we won't be able to tap to part of you." And I was like, okay. And I just like signed out. But I was shooting this short film with a friend who'd been dying to get into the union. And I was telling her the story. And she's like, "Are you serious? You need to call SAG right now. You need to call them. You need to tell them they boomed you. They did all the things. You should get tapped Hartley." And I did. I stayed on it. And a month later or 2 months later, I was in the union. I mean, so, and I know all those other ladies that were basketball players were like serious when I got them, you know. I was like, what? So I do think some of it is just being literally in the right place at the right time. That selling my script, I'm like, you know, I just did a workshop at one of my plays, and I was picketing with my friend Kat, who's a writer director, and I was telling her about this play, and she's like, "You need to meet my friend Nina, who's a playwright based out of New York." And Nina and I did a Zoom, and Nina's like, "Send me your play, I'll read it in the next whatever the weekend." She read it that night. She gave it to IAMA Theater Company. Do you guys know IAMA? It's a great theater company in LA. She gave it to IAMA, and within 48 hours of me sending her the play, I got into this festival. And I just wrote this play. And I'm like, wait, what? Sometimes it's this playwrights New Works Festival. Yeah, they just did it. And that's what I was doing last month. I couldn't be here because I was doing this festival. Anyway, sometimes it's just like the stars aligning, but you have to be still doing it. And you have to believe in yourself. You have to be here for them to give you the job, you know? I will say, like, I'm reckless. I was reckless in my 20s. I think you should be a little reckless. I do. I think you go places if you take risks. I remember quitting my last waiting table job. It was Ryan Bergman's restaurant it was Wolf Creek. Yeah. You remember? Yeah. And I was driving there, and this is a great story, but I remember, and it was almost like my Catholicism was like coming out. But I was driving, and I hated waiting tables. I hated memorizing the menu because I didn't want to do it anymore. I was done. I waited tables at 20 different restaurants before I moved to LA. There was a moment in Lincoln when I was trying to save money. I was waiting table at 3 restaurants, all in the Haymarket. It was like I was bouncing around. It was so dumb.
That was earlier than me last year.
Yeah, I was so tired of waiting tables, and I could not memorize that I had to get a job at Ryan's restaurant or BML's because they're the only people that wouldn't make me memorize the menu. They wouldn't fire me. Everybody else would have fired me. So I was like, yeah, on the 5, driving. Every time it was an hour, I was in traffic. And I was driving to Santa Clarita, and I just remember this, like, it felt like the devil and the angel, like, you know, and it's like, you know, you gotta quit your job. You gotta quit. And then it's, how are you gonna pay your bills? And it was just a full conversation, the whole drive up. But by the time I got there, I literally walked in and I said, "Ryan, I'm putting in like 2 weeks." And at that time I booked 1 commercial and a co-star on Gilmore Girls, where I made like $800. That was it. And all I said was rents. I mean, that was it. And then a commercial that I was hoping would air. That was it. And I remember walking in and being like, "I'm quitting my job." And Ryan, I didn't even know Ryan. And he was like, "You sure?" And I was like, "Yes, I'm quitting. I'm not going back. I'm not going to wait tables." I did work at Jennifer's still after this, but I was like, "I'm done waiting tables. I'm done." And I didn't ever go back. Ever. I just took that risk. I was like, I don't know where the money came from. That commercial never aired, but I booked another one. And then I booked another one. I believed in myself, and I believed that I was supposed to do this. And I believed that somehow I was gonna survive. And I did. And sometimes I was like thriving. And the crazy story is when I booked Justify, it's shot in San Francisco. And I would drive that drive every day. And I would just be like, man, this is such a small world. Justified wasn't that because it started small. I actually did not think I was ever going to get that job because it was a prostitute. And at that time, I'd only been like mousy secretaries, like really. And so I was like, there's no way I'm getting this job. I didn't even have the proper attire. And I went in and I was like, I don't look like a prop, whatever. But I had been working on Tennessee Williams in acting class. And I had this character that I really loved. And I created this, I did this vocal, I'd been working with doing voice work. And I was like, I really want to play with this character. So I didn't care what I was doing, what I looked like. I was like, I just want to play this character. This is another great story. I feel like I've told this story, but anyway, I did the thing. And it's Cammie Patton. I don't know if you guys, anyway, Cammie's great. And I did the thing, and she didn't tell me. I have done that where I've done a different character, and people have actually just kind of know out down there, like stop doing the character. But this time she didn't, and I got on set and I did the thing. And the director, the first director that I worked with, his name is Peter Warner. He just passed away actually this year. Yeah. He's lovely, but there was a take. He was like, this take, can you not do the thing? And it was the only time to this day that I did not listen to the director because I was like, I'm not going to not do, I'd have to do the thing because at this point, I only know it's one episode and I want this for my reel. I want to show people that I can do this. And so I didn't listen to him. I said, yeah, okay. And then I did it, the thing again. And he said, okay, we're moving on. And that thing stayed. And the character grew and grew. I did start off as one episode. And by the last season, I did 7 out of 10 or something. So I did, I think 16 or 17 episodes all in. And it became bigger and bigger. But I swear it's because I didn't. I also knew when I really wanted something. I am a little stubborn. But my favorite audition part was like season 1 of Arthur. Yeah, and I loved that audition. I was in the running for a long time for that. But that was probably like my biggest part for it. I actually know Allison Tolman now. We became friends on the line. Aww. She became my buddy. She's a captain. She was a captain at Nebula. Lovely. She's lovely. Wonderful. She's the coolest. And she's out there picketing every day, fighting clean. But yeah, that was a great one. It's really rare that I'm like, fully I want this job. Because that was probably one of the gifts of this time when we were striking was like, it made me grateful for what I had in acting. And I feel like, well, how can I approach this next chapter? Because I feel like we all kind of, it's like, yes, COVID was one wave. And then the strike was the second wave. And now we have this new lease on, well, we'll have to make sure everybody approves this contract, which is another thing. We have to vote. And then we move forward. And how can we approach this next chapter differently? And so I've started to ask myself, like, you have camera here and stuff, right? And you take it. How can you shoot it in a way that's fun for you? I'm not saying different from everybody else because you can't worry about everybody else. Who knows what they're doing? But how can you make it as fun so that when people see it, they're like, at least you had fun. That's all you have control over. At least you felt good about it. That's it. That's all you have. Truly, like it doesn't matter. I have seen people annihilate pages. Like they were so unbelievably good. They did not. I've been in rooms with readers. I've been a reader and been like, that's the person. Every single time they didn't get the job. It's not, that's just not it. It's not like you cannot make it about, I'm going to be the best. You have to do whatever feels good for you so that you can walk away from it knowing you did what you wanted to do. So that's how I'm like, I get another chance. And also like, I moved here in my 20s. I mean, like the business, I'm different. how can I honor who I am now and be okay with who I am now moving forward? Like, that's also been a huge thing for me. It's like, you know, it's a wild thing to watch yourself grow up. It's not always fun. And so that's also part of it for me, like shedding that. So there's lots of things that go into that. But the biggest thing is do what you want to do, be the most fun. Because that's why we all got into this. I always remind myself, like, I became an actor because it was fun. Yeah. And I became a writer because it was fun. If I can just stay in that place as much as possible and not let the business like tear me down or drag me to, you know, to hell, like the Sam Raimi movie. Great movie, by the way. That's what I can watch.